Man, can you imagine being a professional and having there be a patch that comes out that you just completely miss and fail to cover for like a week? Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Anyway, here's the patch notes for Metal Slug Tactics from a week ago.
Metal Slug Tactics.
Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including slightly out-of-date coverage of important bug fixes for a game that had quite a few of them, but that everyone still seems to really be enjoying, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. And yes, all self-deprecating aside, I did just completely miss that on Thursday, November the 14th, patch 1.0.1 for Metal Slug Tactics was released, and wasn't any sort of like major content update, which should not be surprising seeing as how the game has not been out for very long, but it was the first major bug fix for pretty much all of the issues that people had been telling me that they were seeing. Now, it's important to note that I'm not sure if this patch has actually gone out to consoles yet. If it hasn't, I'm sure it will be soon, but it is currently being called out as a patch for Steam specifically. Now, all of these issues are issues that I was seeing people talk about for the console versions of the release as well. So again, I can only imagine that it is going to be pushed out to consoles sooner rather than later if it hasn't already. Console players, keep an eye out for this one. Maybe check to see if your game has any updates, and then we can go from there. If I get any updated information about this, I'll put it either in the description or in a pinned comment one way or the other. Going through here, hitting just the major points. We're not going to go through every patch, but if you want to read through the entire list, I'll have a link to it in the description. You can check that out. We'll see what are the big things to note here. First of all, for the UI, this is one of the things that I was seeing people discuss the most, just how difficult some text was to read. This is not an issue that I had on the Steam version, but on consoles I can definitely see how it could be a problem. So just font size has been increased on pretty much everything. Buttons have been moved around for the mission UI. It's easier to see what each reward is going to be for the legend, what your level up options are. The turn order pop-up now shows Rumi's turn order for missions that involve her, and there are some fixes for Nadia's mine tooltip. Apparently there were some controller memory leak issues that have been optimized, which is an interesting one and certainly could explain some problems with long-term gameplay. There is a sound effect for Picard's totem swap that should now appear correctly. There was a really funny glitch that I encountered a lot where your characters would lose their arms when hopping out of a vehicle. That has been fixed. The animations for the Metal Slug's main cannon attack have also been repaired. Now this is a big one, especially for my Leona lovers out there. Frags made by what the devs call invocations, this is like Alice activation, Gunbot, Iron Lizard, and most importantly, Leona's after images, now count as frags for their invoker. And this one was driving me nuts because I kept doing missions where I had to get a certain number of frags with Leona, but it was really hard to reliably do because every time I got a frag with one of her clones, it wouldn't count for Leona, but it's obviously a skill of Leona, so it should count for her. That was a bug. That has been fixed. Similarly, frags made from vehicles and using objects like the crane now also count for objectives, which is very important. It sucked to have like you have to kill all of the designated enemies, and then you had like a metal slug that you were using, and you got kills on those enemies with the metal slug, and it didn't count, so now you can't successfully complete the mission. It was awful, it sucked, so that has been fixed, thankfully. Apparently there's an issue where achievements that were validated in-game were not validated on the platform. I don't think I've run into this issue, but for achievement hunters out here, you now no longer have to worry. There were some issues where certain names and abilities did not have proper descriptions, such as like Rumi's name wasn't showing up, Alice didn't have status descriptions, certain enemies like the natives didn't have attack descriptions, something I called out actually even in the early access period, so all of those have been repaired. They fixed the funny little thing where in the outpost, Rumi's name would be stuck behind the reroll button, so you couldn't actually read it. Obviously not a major important thing, but just like a little polished detail that it's good to see got cleaned up. There was an issue where characters would be able to keep mummy attacks after they were killed as a mummy and then revived using a 1-up. Very useful, because those are very high damaging attacks, but obviously not intended behavior, so good that that's been fixed. Leona's after images can now be walked through by other units, which was a very annoying one because they were supposed to be able to, except if you made them solid, and then they would block your ability to move through them anyway, even though they wouldn't block line of sight and bullets. So I'm glad that's been squared away again as a major Leona lover. There was also an issue, which I wouldn't really call an issue, it was nice, where Nadia was still able to sync using her handgun while Gunbot was spawned, but like Gunbot's description specifically calls out the fact that it uses her handgun and she won't be able to use it, and she's not able to use it to trigger regular attacks. So I think it's a really unfortunate thing for Nadia that that's how Gunbot works. I really don't like that as an ability. And it was nice to be able to still obviously cheat out some extra damage by having her be able to sync attack with it. You no longer can. Things are now working as intended, but unfortunately I think Nadia is just not a very well-designed character in that regard. Acupuncture was not working with Fio's field dressing passive skill, so that's now fixed. You'll be able to get a little bit of extra healing there. The infinite XP and coins glitch using Gunbot to infinitely save prisoners and max out all of your rewards is gone, which, I mean, like, it's fun when you can do stuff like that, but yeah, I understand the devs not wanting people to just break everything open with that, so that's fair that it's gone. Tesla ammo will now activate properly after undoing a move. This is a nice one, and it's one of the things that I do like about Nadia's kit, where if she's standing on one of her mines and she has this ability, her special weapon doesn't use ammo, which can be really nasty. But, you know, having an issue where you undo a move and suddenly the game doesn't recognize that you're standing on a Tesla mine anymore can definitely mess with certain strategies if you're very deep in careful planning, so it's good that that's been squared away. If a Berserker kills Leona on death, there should no longer be a crash associated with that, which is nice. A big one here is that Dragon Nosuke can now be correctly targeted. This was an issue that I was running into, where you would clearly be standing directly in line of sight with the boss, Dragon Nosuke, and not be able to hit it. Like, its hitbox was not as large as its actual model was, and it was clearly intended that the hitbox should be as large as the model due to how certain positioning on the map works. So it would make it a little bit more difficult than like necessary to do damage to Dragon Nosuke, which is kind of a big deal when I think it's the most annoying of the three major bosses anyway, or at least the three main stage bosses. So it's nice that you can actually hit the damn thing the way you're supposed to be able to. Instigator 2 and 3 weapon mods were not correctly adding sync damage, so you can now safely use those to be able to deal the damage that you're trying to deal. And the description for Gunbot's self-destruct should now be correctly displayed. Now, as far as other crashes and major issues are concerned, I have still been hearing that there are problems. I haven't encountered any myself. There do definitely still seem to be bugs that need to be ironed out, but this is a great first start, and I can only imagine, seeing as how these patches came out a week ago, that there should be more coming sometime soon. Unless maybe they're a little bit harder to hammer out. I'm not a game dev. I don't know exactly what goes into a lot of these bugs, but we should be able to look for more on the horizon. In particular, I've still had some issues where the game isn't sure what elevation my character is standing on, and so I'm not able to actually see or hit anything that I should be in clear line of sight with. That's obviously a bit of a big deal. You need to be able to navigate around that. I have still been seeing reports of performance issues in certain fights, such as that with Picard. Since this patch came out, I've not been having those issues myself, but again, that could be an optimization thing that my system is just better with now, so keep letting me know if there's any issues with that so we can make sure that we let the devs know. There has been some weirdness that I've encountered still where different mission dialogues will pop up when you aren't necessarily about to be doing anything with them. I'm thinking in particular of going into a region where you have to bring down one of the mini-bosses, and then as you're making your way towards them, mission dialogue triggers for a different mission, like the protect the tent type mission, right? When I'm nowhere near that mission to begin with. And while it's not really a major issue, I can see it potentially throwing off people who are trying to do specific quest steps to get the true ending of the game. So those are some of the other issues that I've been encountering. I'm sure there are others as well. Again, console players, keep an eye out for this patch coming to your consoles. If anyone has the console version of the game and can let me know in the comments if that has been fixed, great, I'll pin it, people will know. And if it hasn't yet, then we'll have to keep pressure on the devs to make sure that that happens. I know every different console ecosystem has its own weird procedures that you have to go through to push patches out. You see devs talking about stuff like that on social media all the time, where it's like, where's the patch for Switch or for the Xbox version? It's like, well, unfortunately, it's much easier to push patches for this game on one platform than it is on another platform, but we're working on it. So have patience. If you've been having a lot of issues with the game but are still enjoying it, then hopefully there should be a patch for your ecosystem of choice soon. With all that said, though, I'm going to start wrapping this one up here. Thank you to all of my channel supporters. Even though this is a smaller video today, you guys absolutely are the reason that I'm able to keep reliably making content, and I'm not beholden just to AdRev. You can see all their names scrolling by on the right side of the screen. And if you are someone who's interested in helping to directly support the channel, then you can do so through either my YouTube memberships or my Patreon, both of which have links down in the description and have their own rewards that you can look forward to. With all that said, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.